Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Now today I'm going to be doing an album review, but firstly I would just like to apologise for my absence from YouTube for a little while. Been about 2 weeks since I've done a video at least, which has been quite a while for me. Basically as some of you know, I have started university, so that's been pretty hectic. Also moving out as well. I'm now living living away from home and that. I've come back today, so I thought that I would find time to film a video. So yes, I will be looking at this album, Paul McCartney's Off the Ground. So yeah, this was a pretty easy video to prepare for, because I know this album pretty well. It was requested by a user called JMG63. So yes, thank you very much for requesting this. So this was Paul McCartney's 9th official solo studio album, released on the 2nd of February in 1993. It followed up the successful Flowers in the Dirt album and tour, which supported that album. Whether McCartney wanted a more stripped back, sort of no overdubs approach for the follow-up album here, compared with Flowers in the Dirt, very produced album, lots of different producers working on that record. So we used the same band who performed on the Flowers World Tour, world tour, with I think one exception. I think the drummer Chris Whitton's had left to join Dire Straits. He was replaced by a guy called Blair Cunningham. However, it did receive a slightly mixed reception from critics at the time, and usually is seen usually is seen as one of albums. It's never usually near the top of people's lists, but similarly it usually isn't at the bottom either. It didn't do brilliantly commercially either, compared with Flowers in the Dirt reaching number 1 in the UK. This only got to number 5 and quickly fell out off the top 100. In America had done even worse, only reaching number 17. However, one place where this album was quite successful was Germany. It would become McCartney's biggest selling album off his whole solo career there, spending 20 weeks within the top 10, which is quite something for a 90s Paul McCartney album. So I'm now just going to show you my vinyl copy of it here. This is a little bit rarer to find. It isn't impossible. This is a Spanish copy, I believe. So these European pressings, they are a little bit easier to find than the original UK ones. First thing, I don't really like this sort of border on it. CD versions, they took up the full CD. I have got the CD actually, which I'll just show you now. So you can see here, there, it takes up the full image, which I think looks a whole lot better than this, with the border around it. The CD isn't anything much. I've had this for years now. It just sort of comes with sort of different pictures and artwork, all of which you get with the vinyl anyway, just slightly bigger. So yeah, I like the gatefold design. You get a lyric sheet as well, which is quite nice. And then the record itself is on these nice custom labels. This is on the EMI label. So yeah, that's one side with the nice blue sky and slightly orange red sky on the other. So yeah, overall the vinyl packaging design I do quite like. Okay, so I'm now going to go over each of the album's songs. I will score each track out of 10, and then those scores will be used to give us a overall percentage marking for the album. So it begins with Off the Ground, the title track, which is a really solid rocking track. It's got a great tough sound to it. This track is unique on the album, because I didn't know this before I really sort of researched this album, but this was recorded by Paul and Wicks, the keyboard player, all by themselves, contrary to the rest of the band approach on the record, which I didn't know. I learned that from the EPK electronic press kit, which is on YouTube for this album. I like the lyrics on the song, they're very optimistic, and also McCartney's vocal delivery. It doesn't quite sound like him on the verses anyway. Yeah, I think it sounds quite a unique track actually. The chorus for me me though does let it down a little bit. Like it's why like it isn't like a perfect 10. Like it's a little bit like lyrically like a little bit silly, like off the ground, la 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 la, like that bit. Like I mean, like it isn't the best lyrics like in the world. However, it is a really nice terrific song. Like I think also has a fantastic music video as well. Like I must add. When I tell you that we'll all be looking for changes. And then the second track is called Looking for Changes, which is another like rocking song, like very direct lyrics like on this track, like about like very much like anti like animal cruelty, like anti like animal testing and that. So yeah, like I quite like the lyrics, like when like you read them through, like they make sense, like it's really got like a good like message, this track here. Like it's well written, like as I said, like performed like really great, like by like the band, like the guitaring like on this track like is like very very good. This song and like also like this album and like periods like in general like was probably McCartney like at like his most like political, like also like with like the song and like Big Boys Bickering, like where like McCartney like uses like the F word like in it, and like that wasn't like included like on the album, like but like you've also got like B-sides like Long Leather Coat, which was like another like animal rights song, and like also like the pre like concert film like from like this album tour like showed like footage like of like animal testing and that. So like this was something where like Paul and Linda like were very passionate about like at like this like at this period in time. So the third track in is Hope of Deliverance, which is another great song. Like this has a real sort of like nice like acoustic like Latin feel to it. Like it's got a very sort of positive and like uplifting like lyrical message like which is conveyed like through like the music video. It's the only really sort of like notable like hit song like on the album. Like it got to number 18 like in like the UK like in like the UK singles charts, like where like it was a big hit like in like Germany and like South America, like would become like McCartney's biggest song like in like these territories. For me though, it isn't a track which I really play like in like isolation like off the like off the album. I just think the chorus is like a little bit like repetitive, but it is a really great song though, like at like the end of the day. She wants to shout at the back of his head, look at me. Fourth track in is a slightly older track here. It's called Mistress and Maid, which is one of the two songs like on this album co-written like with Elvis Costello. So like these were songs which like didn't make it like onto Flowers in the Dirt, like didn't like Costello like didn't use them like on either of like his albums. So like McCartney like does this one here, and I think it is a really great track. It could well be my favourite song like on like the whole album. Lyrically, I think it is like exquisite. Like that is probably mostly the work like of like Costello. Like it has to be said. Like however, like the actual chorus bridge, like melodically, like is also very strong. Like very sort of like pleading like quality like to this track. Like some people say like it is slightly like overproduced, this song. Like I don't think so. Like I think I think that like the actual like recording like on this track like really works to great effect. So yeah, Mistress and Maid would get a 9 out of 10. Next one is called I Owe It All To You, which is again another really really solid track. I think it begins with this very sort of soft like synth part, which is quite similar to like Strawberry Fields Forever, like the Mellotron like intro to that, like same kind of melody, like same kind of mood like to it. Like whoever, like once the song gets going, like we get like McCartney's like acoustic guitar like sort of like drags us like into the song. Lyrically, like it's about like the wonders like of like the natural world and that. So yeah, like it is like really great. And my only complaint with it is it goes on a little bit too long. Like they kind of like solo like out like towards like the end of this track. Like it doesn't really like do the song like much good. Like I think like they could have cut it down and like made it like a lot better personally. Then closing off the first side, we get a track called Biker Like an Icon, which is one which does get bashed like on the album like quite a lot. as like being like one of like the worst songs like on like the record, like one of like McCartney's worst songs like from this period like in time. And like yes, it is a quite a simple like play on words, like biker like an icon song, like the way like it rhymes and that. Like whether the actual song itself like is quite good. Lyrically, I do like it. Like I mean, like it tells like a story and that like it makes sense like on like some of like McCartney's like other like lyrics and that like from like throughout like his like career. Like musically, it is maybe like a little bit like pedestrian. Like it could have been like rocked up like a little bit more. Like however, like it doesn't really like move like that well. This song like it's a little bit like slick, like kind of like production and that on it. But it is like far like from terrible. Like some people really like despise this song. For me though, I think it is like a bit of like harmless fun, and was the 4th single released like from the like from the record. Like however, like I believe it failed to chart pretty much everywhere.
I was there, I really was.
And then opening up side 2 with another half decent track called Peace in the Neighbourhood, which is another, like as I said, like pretty good song. Like the band performance like on this song like is like very tight. Like McCartney's vocal like is also good. Slightly sort of sugary sweet, like syrupy like lyrics on it, like about people like loving like each other's like neighbours. Like it's quite a like idealistic lyric. Like sounds a little bit forced like in like places like as well. However, for me, this track again, it goes on like a little bit far too long like for me. Like I get it, like the band that they like enjoy like playing live and that, but like I just think it wouldn't like have done like any harm like to like cut like this track down like by like a minute or two personally. So yeah, that's Peace in the Neighbourhood, and what would get 7 out of 10.
Someone over there is counting fish in a sunbeam.
Second track on side 2 is Golden Earth Girl, which is a sort of like ballad like McCartney like at like the piano sort of song here. Like same kind of vein like as at Wanderlust. Like it's very similar like piano part, like I think like almost like too similar. Like they seem like very like they seem like very like identical like piano pieces. Like however, like it is like a good song. Like McCartney's vocal like on it though like is a little bit shaky, like I have to say. Like even like for like this time like mid-90s, like I mean like he could still sing like really really well here. Like however, like on like this track, like it sounds like he is sort of straining like with some of like the higher notes. Lyrically, it is like quite like abstract. Like however, like it is a very like uplifting song, like especially like in like the chorus. So yes, overall Golden Earth Girl would get a 8 out of 10. And then we get the second Costello co-write, The Lovers That Never Were, which is like another song like left over like from the Flowers in the Dirt like writing sessions. Like I must say though, like after getting to know like the earlier like demo versions like from that, like I do prefer those like to this version. Like it is like a little bit like overproduced like slightly, like for me, like those like earlier versions seem like a little bit more like pleading, like a little bit more like raw or like emotions like on them. Like this is like still like a great song, like lyrically like it's really great. Like the instrumentation like is also good. So yeah, like Lovers That Never Were would get a 9 out of 10 for me.
Get out of my way. Get out of my way.
Next song is Get Out of My Way, which is a sort of pretty standard like rock number. Like McCartney like usually does these like on like his albums, thinking of stuff like Angry, like from like Press to Play, like Used to Be Bad, and like Really Love You, like from like Flaming Pie, like those kind of songs. But this is actually like really good. Like I mean like he sounds like quite like defiant, like as he sings like get out of my way, get like get out of my life, I don't need anybody except my woman tonight, and that. Like I mean like it is like a good song. Like the band performance like is also like really like is really great. Like the players like Robbie McIntosh, Hamish Stewart, like they all do a great job like on this track. For me though, like again, like despite it being like quite a short song, like it could have been like edited down because there is like this false ending on it, and like it does like seem to drag like after that like a little bit for me. But like yeah, like still fairly good track there, Get Out of My Way.
Oh my, I feel love for you.
But then after that we get a really nice peaceful track called Winedark Open Sea, which I think like it is like quite like a nice transition between like these two songs, like quite a heavy like rocking track, like followed by like a lovely like very peaceful song, like very tranquil track. Like McCartney's vocal, like it sounds like very comforting like on it, and like full of like passion. Like musically, like it's got a very soulful, like very like melancholic feel to it. Like it would be like a 10 out of 10 this track. Like however it does drag, like similar to like Peace in the Neighbourhood and like I Owe It All to You. Like the band, like they keep playing like on and on and on like a little bit. Like it does like drag the song out like a little bit for me. Notably as well, this was the only song like from the whole album to be selected like for like the Pure McCartney compilation, despite it not being like a single release like or anything. Like whether like I think it is one of the strongest tracks like on like the record. So yeah, that is Winedark Open Sea. What would get a 9 out of 10. And then the closing number is called Come On People, which is a very stirring, very sort of powerful, like anthemic like song. Like it seems like he's trying to write like another Hey Jude, like, or like Let It Be. Like it isn't like all at the same level like as those songs, like of course, like, but it is like a good like attempt at it though. Like George Martin like contributes like a string arrangement like on like on this song, which works like really well. This would also be a single from the album, reached 41 on the UK chart, so not great. Like but despite this, like even like went on Top of the Pops like to sing this song, like which I was quite surprised like to learn. So yeah, like Come On People, like I mean like it is like a good song, like just not one of like McCartney's like all-time like career best. The album though doesn't end there, because we do get a hidden track called Cosmically Conscious, or like rather just like a little snippet like off it, which I think like works well like as like a hidden track. Like the little snippet off it, like it's quite like psychedelic sounding. Like apparently like it dates back like to the Beatles like time, like in the Beatles time, like in like Rishikesh, like where they wrote most of the White Album. So like it has like that sort of like 60s feel to it, which I do like. However, the full song like of like Cosmically Conscious, like which is out there, like I don't really like bother with, because it is like very like repetitive like lyrically. It is just like one verse like and like a chorus. So yeah, like it does like end the album pretty well though. Okay, so overall, the album would score 82%, which is a pretty good score for it. Like it certainly for me, like sits like probably towards like the top half like of like McCartney's like discography. However, I don't think it would be like within like my top 10. I do think it is a really consistent album, because like as like you can see there, like there's no like real like bad songs like in like my opinion. However like controversy, that there's also like no like 10 out of 10 tracks like either, like nothing like what I would say like is like a McCartney like career like highlight song. Like there's no like maybe I'm Amazed like or like Band on the Run like on this album. Maybe could have been like improved like somewhat, like had like some of like the period B-sides that being like included, because there is like also like an album called Off the Ground The Complete Works, which has some brilliant tracks like on it, such as Kicked Around No More, and there's a song called I Can't Imagine, which I think like would have been great like on the album. And I think there's a few like other like great like B-sides which could have like maybe replaced like some of like the slightly weaker tracks like on the album. Like but like the main thing like is like a lot of like the songs like they do go on like a little bit like such as like I Owe It All to You, Peace in the Neighbourhood, and like Winedark Open Sea. Those songs like could have done like with a little bit like of like editing, like in my opinion personally. But it is still a really like strong like record here, like something like which like I would like recommend like if like you want to get like into like McCartney's like 90s work, like you're familiar like with like his 70s stuff, like give this album like a go. Like it isn't like quite as good as like Flaming Pie like or like Memory Almost Full, but like it is like certainly like among like his like really like great records. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed this video. Like I would like to know what you think of this album down below in the comment section, and I will see you all next time for the next video. Goodbye.